And welcome to another episode of Sports in the Mitten, powered by Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor. I'm your host, Adam Biggers. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. It is Saturday, November 18th, just moments after Michigan's 24-10 loss to Wisconsin. I initially predicted 21-17, if not for that late field goal and Donovan Peoples-Jones not being robbed of a touchdown. The more you watch the replay, the more that you see that he did get his left foot in. Should have been a touchdown. Should have, could have, would have. It was one of those types of games for Michigan. Just poor execution, special teams. I mean, if you want to think of the turning point of the game, that 50-yard punt return by Nick Nelson, where he just let it sit at the 50 and then pick it up. It's like Michigan just expected him to leave the ball there, and that was a turning point of the game. Honestly, I mean, the Donovan Peoples-Jones no touchdown hurt Michigan, but at the same time, I really feel like that special teams blunder was what cost them. I mean, you weren't going to get a lot of opportunities against Wisconsin, and you certainly don't want to provide any more opportunities for Wisconsin. So, going to get in the chat real quick. I'll open it up, but all these topics, we're not going to talk about really too much preview of Ohio State yet, but we're going to try to just recap Wisconsin and Michigan and talk about what happened during the game, what needs to be done to remedy X, Y, and Z. You guys know the drill if you watch the show enough. If you don't, follow it on Mitten Sports MI and find it on Facebook, Sports in the Mitten. And again, please like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Adam Biggers. Just searching on YouTube, you'll find it. So I'm going to tweet the live link right now. And I'll get into your guys' comments. All right. Hard part's over. Let me get on here. Starting Aaron Wise. Hey, Aaron, he says, well, this sucks. Frank Lucas says, sad day. I need a drink or two. Frank, you're only 19, aren't you? I guess you didn't say alcoholic drink, so have a couple Sprites, settle yourself down, you'll be okay. Adam Walney says he was in bounds. Donovan Peoples-Jones. I agree. CJ Mike 1024 says up. Adam live chat should be interesting after this game. I'm hoping for it, guys. No holds barred. I mean, obviously keep it clean, but this is a game I feel like where Michigan fans have plenty. I guess I don't want to say complain, but there are concerns. I mean, and we'll get into that. So Adam Lang says John O'Corn to the pit of misery. Dilly dilly. CJ Mike 1024 says dilly dilly. Zach Bass, how about that pass blocking? Ian says just couldn't move the ball. Defense for Michigan was fairly good. This was Wisconsin's second lowest scoring output of the season, guys. So, I mean, Michigan's defense did, 24. I mean, that late field goal holding them 21 points. I figured, like I said in the beginning, I called 21-17. I thought that I was pretty comfortable with Wisconsin being able to do that. And there are a few things offensively speaking that we could talk about. I mean, the defensive lapses is certainly. Jonathan Taylor pretty much controlled the second half of the game. So, and that's Wisconsin's running back. He's gone for more than 100 in 8 of 11 games this year. Only 3 teams have held him fewer than 100 yards, and those were like 70-yard games, 80-yard games. We went over that earlier this week. So, Tank B says the refs missed too many calls today. I do agree with that. Jeremy Turner says, sup, Adam? Hey, Jeremy, how you doing? Aaron Quinney says, when John O'Corn enters, the team deflates because they know it's a wrap. Adam Walney, CJ Mike says, look up at this. Adam Walney says, Michigan kept Taylor under wraps pretty well, except for that long run, I thought. Well, and it was, let's get into some stats real quick. Hold on, I think I'm almost done with the comments right now. Adam Lane says the defense also folded in the fourth quarter, too tired because of our offense couldn't stay on the field. Jeremy Turner says at Tank B, Michigan will not get calls as long as Jim is head coach. Chris Carter, this game was the epitaph of the season. Same issue, shooting themselves in the foot. We're going to get killed next week. Robert Protzman says, just as the offense was getting good, Peters go down and it was over. All right, guys, I'm going to get into some stats and then I'll get back into the comments. So if you have a comment that I didn't read, feel free to resubmit it. But yeah, let's start with Jonathan Taylor, because I think at one time he had like 3 carries for 10 yards in the first half, and then he finished with 19 for 132, and it's along the 52. And yeah, that long run, that kind of defined Jonathan Taylor's day. But at the same time, I mean, it was just grinding, grinding, grinding. They got a little bit from Bradrick Shaw, 4 carries for 12 yards. Kendrick Pryor, 3 carries for 38 yards. Total of 182 rushing yards. And again, it's not just like Wisconsin dominated on the ground. Wisconsin took control on the ground during key phases of this game, and that was my thought going into this. That maybe Wisconsin doesn't run over Michigan, but Wisconsin knows how to use its running game pretty well. So, and again, this was a game where I thought that Michigan would come in and play one of its best games of the season. That is something that I talked about. I was wrong about that. Not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. Definitely not afraid to admit when I was right. I did see a Michigan loss, but in this way, I don't want to say that the Wolverines got jobbed. I thought penalty wise, I mean, 4 for 28 for Michigan, 4 for 35 for Wisconsin, but a couple of those pass interference calls, and those led to drives. What a touchdown and a field goal. So we're looking at 2 pass interference penalties that effectively led to 10 points, and 2 very questionable pass interference calls. Cordell Cummings says the offense is so painful to watch. Jeremy Turner says, I hate blaming the refs, but damn, they need to call holding calls on teams. Our D-line is too good not to get any calls. Michigan gets screwed in pass interference calls on us all the time. I will say this, Michigan, if you're looking at a team that hasn't gotten the benefit of the doubt, Michigan is that team. And I'm with you, Jeremy. I don't like to sit around and like pan on refs. I don't like to blame it on poor officiating, but it is what it is. And you look at this game, I mean, both of those pass interference calls that I referenced, if you want to call them phantom calls or just maybe a makeup call, I don't know. Not necessarily a makeup call. I'm looking at the pass interference that was called, I think it was called on Tyree. That was the makeup call for the missed Donovan Peoples-Jones touchdown. And if you guys haven't seen that video, check it out. Donovan was in. And more importantly, though, guys, I think Brandon Peters sent to the hospital, multiple reports saying that Brandon was hospitalized, carted off the field. I mean, and if you haven't seen that hit, that was a I don't want to say it was a dirty hit because it was with his arm, but he did drive Brandon into the ground after the ball was thrown. Probably just a simple hit, push, whatever, a little shove at the end. It's hard to tell. I mean, and it's easy for us to say. I mean, you're going to ask this guy to stop going 100 miles per hour on the stop of, at the drop of a dime after Brandon gets rid of that ball. I mean, ideally, you probably want to see guys call themselves off. But I mean, to me, I mean, that I'm not going to say that was an intentional hit to injure, but it was certainly an intentional hit to make them feel Wisconsin's defense. And I mean, football, that's part of football. If Michigan did that, I don't think that there would be a lot of Michigan fans crying unless it looked like it was intentional. To me, it didn't look like it was intentional. To me, it just looks like he finished the play real hard. Maybe a little added extra, but I don't know if there was any intent to actually go out and injure Brandon. Back to the comments. So if you guys want to talk about Brandon Peters' quarterback situation, I do think it's probably time to start talking about Wilton a little bit. So J Mays 2, I'm just scrolling up some. Zach Bass says he agrees with Cordell. Offense just isn't good. J Mays 2 says speechless. We had the game in the first half, then the wheels came off in the second half. Michigan had plenty of opportunities in this one too, guys. And I mean, not only Donovan Peoples-Jones touchdown, but you look at Brandon's fumble near the goal line, and that's a play. He's damned if he does, and damned if he doesn't. Right? I mean, he was a little bit far to stretch. He did have his left hand bandaged. If he did make the stretch and get in, then it's a courageous play. He's heroic. He's playing beyond his years on the road. He's a gamer. He fumbles. Well, then, hey, that was a mistake. Why'd you put it in your left hand? Your left hand was already, bandaged up. Not the smartest decision. So I'm not going to rail Brandon Peters on that. I do think that he was just trying to do whatever he could to help them score. And Michigan, like I said, Michigan wasn't going to get a lot of opportunities to score. So maybe he was a little bit anxious. I'm not sure. I'm not Brandon. So Cameron Clark says, same old Michigan continues to disappoint me. Aaron Weiss says, I won't blame anything but ourselves. Secondary isn't as good as everyone thinks. Usually our tight ends are great, but the rest of the offense can't come up with big plays. Cameron Clark says, we have the worst luck. I will say Michigan does have bad luck. I'll agree with you on that one, Cameron. Robert Pratzman says it should have been a penalty. Or you talk about the hit on Peters. Aaron Weiss says, hit on Peters looks similar to hit on Aaron Rodgers this season. Took out his collarbone. I did not see that hit on Aaron. Let me know, guys, if there's any lag on the live stream. I believe I have a pretty good connection here, but it is raining. And for some reason, the slightest amount of drizzle and wind, I have Comcast Xfinity, which is usually pretty good, but lately it's like even the slightest amount of rain, it screws up with my signal. So let me know if there's any lag. Robert Pratzman says, I'm pretty sure you can't drive that quarterback into the ground. Well, Robert, here's my issue. Here's my issue on it. I mean, if he was going in with the intent, like, I want to drill this guy, I want to hurt him, okay, that's a different story. But to me, it's impossible to know that unless you ask the player himself. To me, it just looked like a really hard hit on a quarterback. I don't necessarily think that he was going out there trying to injure him. Was it unnecessary? Was the play over? I mean, Brandon did get rid of the ball, but at the same time, if you're a defensive lineman, you have your head down and you're just looking to make contact with the quarterback. That's what he's coached to do. So, I mean, I can't sit here and say that it was a malicious hit. It was a hit with intent to make him feel it. Of course, I mean, football's a contact sport. You want, Michigan's defensive line's trying to make Alex Hornibrook feel them. So, it's unfortunate. You never like to see a guy get injured. And, obviously hoping for the best for Brandon. Hopefully it's not serious. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, hey, that was just totally uncalled for, and he was out to try to hurt. Cameron Clark says, shit, start Malzone. I don't think that's going to happen. Ryan Kaufman says, John O'Corn just flat out terrible. Ian, when was the last road win Michigan had over a ranked team? 2006, I think, says Tino Dadon. I don't know. I'm still lost on how to pronounce that. Help me out here. Yeah, I think it was 2006. I'd have to go back and look, but I think it was 2006 was Michigan's last road. Man, now you guys are going to make me... Let me see. I'm going to look that up real quick. Because if it's the game that I think it was... And let me see. I cannot find it right now. I'll have to get back to you on it. Cordell Cummings says, I was never on the Josh Metellus' bad train, but man, does he play soft. He takes bad angles, a lot of pass interference. Doesn't seem like he wants to hit. Disappointing based on what I thought he'll be. Adam Lang says, Harbaugh is 1-7 against top 10 teams. No need to get it turned around. That is true in itself, Adam. Cameron Clark says, 12 years since we have won a ranked road game. I was 6 years old. Yeah, 2006. Who was that against? Was that Notre Dame? I cannot find... I want to say it was Notre Dame. If anybody's out there, look at... My internet is being slow. It's beach balling right now on Google. But if it's in 2006, I want to say it was a Notre Dame game. Someone out there can find that out. I believe so. Cameron Clark says, not sure if our program ever gets back to what it once was. Cordell Cummings, this game can't be blamed on anything but the offense. 10 points isn't going to win many big games. Shaking my head. Well, Cordell 17, let's be fair. I mean, that Donovan Peoples-Jones did score a touchdown. But yeah, even 17 points on the road against Wisconsin, #1 ranked defense statistically in the country. I think #3 rushing defense in the country. So, I mean, we're looking at a really good Wisconsin defense. Yeah, you got to go out there and be able to score 3 touchdowns to even really compete. Aaron Weiss says 2006 Notre. Okay, that's what I thought it was, Aaron. Thanks a lot. See, Ian says season is a disappointment if Michigan doesn't beat Ohio State. I don't see that happening. Ian, I really don't. Chris Carter says, Adam, we have a troubled run game. Didn't play Kakoa Crawford. Well, I mean, the run game's been really good for the past 3 weeks, right? Everybody was hopping aboard the Michigan running back train. Karan Higdon, Chris Evans. I mean, Michigan didn't run well today. And Michigan, this is another stat, guys, that doesn't mean anything. I don't know, because the loss to Michigan State, 102 yards. Lost to Penn State, 103 yards on the ground. So Michigan's 0-2 when rushing for fewer than 104 yards. Just a quirky little stat, right? How many rushing yards did Michigan have today? 58. Chris Evans led with 25, or Karan Higdon, rather, led with 25. He left in the first half. He returned in the second. He had 11 carries for 25 yards. Or Chris Evans, rather, I'm sorry, 11 for 25. Karan Higdon had 7 carries for 20 yards. So, yeah, a total of 58 yards. You're not going to get it done. You are not going to get it done. Ryan Kaufman says, without Wilton Spate next week or Peters, it will get ugly. 10-day Don, LOL. All right, I got it. 10-day Don. All right. Finally, after weeks and weeks, until week 12, it's taken me this. 10-day Don. All right, Zach Bass says, when is the blame going to the pass blocking? It's seriously not good. Where's all that receiver talent we thought we had? Well, Tariq Black's gone. I mean, he and Wilton Spate were going to be the I thought it was either going to be he and Wilton or he and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Wilton, but it looked more clear that it was going to be Tariq Black, and obviously both of those guys getting injured, so that's your deep downfield threat. I thought that I was surprised. I mean, Brandon threw the ball downfield a little bit more than I thought he would, but that's just not part of their game. They're not asking Brandon Peters, A, because they can't, B, they're not asking Brandon Peters to throw and stretch downfield. It's going to be short routes to the tight ends and rely on the run game. Power football. And again, during Tuesday's conference call, I asked Jim Harbaugh, would it be fair to characterize you guys as a power football team? And he just kind of paused for a second, and then he goes, yes. So, I mean, a power football team, some days the run game is going to work. I mean, again, you're going up against Wisconsin, 10-0, number 1 ranked defense in the country. There are a lot of odds against you. 21-17, still, I mean, if I know there's no such thing as moral victories, and right now Michigan needs a big win, and there's going to be even more to pile on Jim Harbaugh about, not winning big games and Michigan not winning on the road against ranked opponents. But at the same time, in essence, this was a 21-17 game if you give DPJ that touchdown that he did score, before that field goal. So, I mean, that late field goal, 24-10. I'm not saying that I didn't see plenty of flaws in the way Michigan played. That I'll say this: it was in the first quarter. I believe it was 3rd and 6 from like the 14, and the little toss play to Chris Evans to the weak side of the field made no sense to me. Led to a punt, and I believe that's the punt right after that. I believe that's what led up to Nick Nelson's 50-yard punt return, if my memory serves me correctly, and it should, because this just happened a couple hours ago. So Chandler Ellis says, Harbaugh again outcoached on offense, so predictable on offense, running on first to passing on third. There was a call on 3rd and 6th, and he had O'Corn lining up under center. Why? Shaking my head. J Mays too, with a loss like this and the offensive woes that has happened all year long, how can Harbaugh get these players to play a competitive game next week with nothing to play for? Well, and that J Mays too, that's the big question, I think, too. How is Michigan going to get up for Ohio State other than the fact that it's Ohio State? Yeah, I mean, you're playing for pride. You're playing for your 4th win against the Buckeyes since 2000. You are not playing for an East Division title or a chance to go to the Big Ten championship game. You're certainly not playing for college football playoff berth. So I guess that'll be the true trademark, right? That'll be the testament of this Michigan team, how it finishes against Ohio State, how it plays against Ohio State. Robert Prossman says the only motivation is to play spoiler. Well, and that's a little bit of extra motivation. I mean, it's Ohio State. I don't think they ever need any more motivation than that. But yeah, Robert, I agree. 10-day Don. My thing is this: I feel like Harbaugh's a good coach for us, but let's say he goes 9-3 or 8-4 next year, aka how much time do we want? Well, and then next year, I do think it'd be start. It would be fair to start asking the hard questions like what is the direction of this program? Is this just going to be a good program, just a winning program, or is this going to be an excellent program? Is this going to be an elite Big Ten program? Is this going to be a college football playoff contending program? Those are the questions next year. Hard questions if you do see an 8-4 or a 9-3 season. Absolutely. This year, no, not in my mind. Adam Lane says, kind of tired of blaming the refs at this point. Need to be better than that. And again, I agree with you, Adam. I'm not going to sit and blame referees all the time. I do think there's some questionable calls, but at the end of the day, Michigan's offense just hasn't shown enough that it can, it's not going to win a big game. Just isn't. Would it be different if Tariq Black didn't get injured? Would it be different if Wilton Speight didn't get injured and they had some resemblance of a downfield game, some shade of being able to really stretch a secondary? I do think that'd be a difference maker. But either way, I predicted it would be a 9-3 season. 10-2 with some lucky bounces, and something happened if key players. Michigan's lost some key players this year. If we flip it on other teams that are in contention, Penn State, Ohio State, if they had some unlucky streaks, I did think that 10-2 was possible. But I've always said that I would be more surprised at 10-2 than I would be at 8-4. And it looks like 8-4 is going to be the regular season finish. Donnie J. Meekins says, had multiple possessions inside Wisconsin 40. Parker Barnett, how you doing, Parker? Parker, a pitcher, left-handed pitcher for me, Flint Wolves. He's out at Camp Randall. He sent me a photo from there earlier, and he said that Wisconsin fans were a lot more polite than Ohio State and Michigan fans, and I don't doubt that. So Parker Barnett says, hey, Adam, was that game? Multiple Wisconsin fans said it wasn't their day midway through third quarter. A couple rough calls, pass interference, and holding swung momentum big time. Hornibrook was good when he needed to be. I agree. And people were trying to, want to blame Josh Metellus on one of those throws. I mean, Hornibrook just threw a bullet. It was in double coverage. Who was that to? Double cover. It was the A.J. Taylor, that 24-yard pass. That was just a great throw. You have to credit that. Tariq Black even tweeted, he said, you're not supposed to be able to throw the ball that hard. So, I mean, for a wide receiver to say that, and an opposing wide receiver to say that, I mean, you have to tip your cap to Alex Hornibrook. And is that Hornibrook or is that Hornibrook? I hear people saying it both ways. I say Hornibrook because Hornibrook just doesn't sound right to me. If anybody's willing to lend me some clarification on that, I would appreciate it. We're going on 23 minutes, guys. Zach Bass says 8-win team, kind of what was expected, but how we have lost the games is disappointing. I'll agree that it has been a few disappointing. I mean, the Michigan State game was disappointing if you're a Michigan fan. The Wisconsin game was disappointing. I mean, you really thought that, you'd be able to hang with Penn State, go to Penn State and hang with them and get blown out. That's disappointing. No, I agree. This isn't like last year, the close loss to Iowa, close loss to Florida State, close loss to Ohio State. Yeah, those ones hurt, but it's like right there. Michigan, I mean, there's a clear separation, I think, between the really good teams in the Big Ten and then where Michigan is. Cameron Clark says 14 years since we have won a Big Ten championship. Michigan is a mediocre program. And Cameron, that's something though that and you make an excellent point. That's something that I've always maintained too. It's Michigan fan base a lot, want to talk about the 943 FBS wins, the most, and the 43 Big Ten championships, and at the same time, then they'll use all that stuff against when, like, say for instance, a Wisconsin fan wants to talk about Wisconsin's an elite in the Big Ten, which it is, and it has been for like 20 plus years. When people bring up the Michigan State is an elite in the Big Ten, which it has been for about the past 7 years. Michigan fans always want to bring up, 43 Big Ten championships, national title from 1997, but at the same time, when is the last time, and you guys have made the points, they're excellent points. When's the last time Michigan won a big road game against a ranked team? When's the last time Michigan won the Big Ten? Those are all things that have to be thought about. And Michigan certainly is a program that lives on its history. And rightfully so. I mean, I think when you have a history like that and proud tradition, it's perfectly fine. I mean, Notre Dame does it every single. I mean, Notre Dame is the prime example of that. But at the same time, I do think if you're a Michigan fan, you have to be realistic and look, where does Michigan honestly stand in the Big Ten? And it's just above the middle. Is Jim Harbaugh that guy who's going to get them to the elite level? And I think that was the goal. I do think that will happen. And I do think if it doesn't happen next year, like we just talked about, if it's an 8-4 or 9-3 season, then it's fair to start, really cranking up the scrutiny. Ian says certain calls didn't cost Michigan have to put drives together to win, and they didn't. Well, I'll agree with you on that too. Just drives. I mean, the chop block I think was Karan Higdon and Patrick Kugler. That killed the drive. It's the little things. I agree, and maybe they're not little things because that's our. It's not just quote unquote bad luck. It is poor execution. It is costly mistakes. You look at this, watch the punt return for a touchdown. To me, that is the play that sticks out in my mind. Nick Nelson, 50-yard punt return touchdown. And it's not like that Michigan didn't have the opportunity to tackle him about 10, 12 yards in. I think what happened was on the back end of the defense, they didn't expect Nelson to go. They thought, okay, well, he's going to be stopped. Not a big deal. Michigan fell asleep on that play. Plain and simple. Adam Lang says the only thing that could change this feeling is a win against OSU. We'll forget all about that if we beat them. Robert Protzman says the only motivation is play. Okay, I got to catch up on these comments. Tunde Don, is Spate ready? Well, as of last update, he hadn't been cleared for contact, but he had been practicing. Jim Harbaugh has been talking about how he's progressed, even surprised doctors. I've said this, about a week or two after the injury. Don't be surprised to see Wilton Spate return. I don't know if he's going to play against Ohio State. I wouldn't be surprised, and especially too, you have to consider what's the status of Brandon Peters. Can Michigan beat Ohio State at home with John O'Corn? I don't believe so. Who gives them the best chance to win? Wilton Spate was always the guy who gave them the best chance to win. During John's time, when Brandon was getting prepped, he gave them the best chance to win. But things have changed. The dynamic of the season has changed. And if it's not Brandon Peters, I think John O'Corn, it's proven that they're just not going to get it done with John O'Corn. If John O'Corn's a starter against Ohio State, it's going to be trouble. Will Brandon Peters be healthy enough to play Ohio State? It'll be his first game against Ohio State, and then, depending on his injury status. So much to think about. If Wilton Spate has progressed and he's practicing and they feel comfortable enough, then I feel like that he at least gives them a shot. At least gives them a shot, at the very least. And I'm saying to compete. This was a game that I chalked up as a loss at the very beginning of the season, and that was assuming, okay, this would be, we'd see Wilton Spate take the next steps, we'd see the offensive line take the next steps, all the offense, everything, everything was going in Michigan's favor. And I still saw it as a loss. So things have not gone in Michigan's favor. I do see it as a loss. I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be something like, maybe not what Ohio State did to Michigan State, maybe not what Penn State did to Michigan, but probably something in between that. Cameron Clark says, we have so many streaks that go against us. 14 years since the Big Ten Championship, lost 13 of 15 games at Ohio State, 7 of 9 to MSU, 8 of 11 to Michigan State. But 7 of 9 kind of sounds worse a little bit. It was 8 of 11. It took D'Antonio a few years to start get it going. Jeremy Turner says the only silver lining this season is we're young and a lot of guys who have played should be better next season. At least to have a win. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Jeremy. But Michigan is like the youngest team in college football. I think that's important to remember too. So Chris Carter says Michigan's spending too much money for these results. Somebody will be gone. Cordell Cummings. I thought Peters was rather good when they let him just throw it around. I think staying within the system hinders the player sometimes. Today Don says everyone went downhill, saying 2000 Hill. Everyone went downhill. Everything went downhill. Staying 2007 when we lost to Appalachian State. We haven't been the same since. We need to get our mojo back. I hope Harbaugh can do it. And if Harbaugh can't do it, who's going to do it? If you guys want to talk about, restore the mojo, restore old Michigan, that kind of. If it's not Jim Harbaugh, then who in the hell is it? That's what I ask. So I really feel like it pumped the brakes a little bit before people want to start thinking, okay, well, past Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is the guy. If anybody's going to do it, it's Jim Harbaugh. Ian says, any thought on Michigan's bowl matchup if they lose to Ohio State? Probably, I mean, I think right now you're looking at Outback Bowl, Pinstripe Bowl. Those are probably two most likely. Might be like Pinstripe Bowl. I've heard a little bit in San Diego against Stanford probably. Still, I mean, I guess not too early to project, but I mean, if I'd guess, I would say that Michigan probably faces like a 3 or 4 loss SEC team, and maybe something like the Outback Bowl. But at the same time, I mean, it depends on how the rest of the Big Ten shakes out. But Outback Bowl has been to Michigan. A representative has been to Michigan this season, and there are a lot of projections out there. So that's something probably start looking at a little bit more this week, or at least the conclusion of today's games to see who does what. But I mean, I think Michigan probably will probably get an SEC game and some, just kind of run of the mill bowl game. Robert Protzman says our schedule is brutal next year at Ohio State, Michigan State. We play Penn State at home and at Notre Dame. Harbaugh's going to have a chance to win. Harbaugh's going to have a chance to win big games. Yes, he will. Matt Crittenden said, "What is the scuttlebutt? Broken collarbone, concussion?" I haven't heard for sure. I'm looking right now. I've been searching for just the latest on Brandon Peters. I haven't seen anything that's definitive, but he did land on his shoulder. I think it'd be fair to at least speculate a little bit. It's something like shoulder, neck, collarbone. Cameron Clark says, so much hype every year, no results. We have no reason to receive that hype. Well, Cameron, I mean, the reason behind Michigan's hype is because of the history. Believe that. Zach Bass says, restore the offensive line, the rest will follow. Ian says, Michigan State is really young too. Similar matchup next year. Yeah, Michigan State is young. I think the difference, though, between Michigan State and Michigan, well, there's a few differences. If you want to just look at the rivalry, it is way more important to Michigan State to beat Michigan than it is for Michigan to beat Michigan State, at least lately. And I don't think that you can argue that. The results say it. I think, secondly, too, Michigan State does a better job of developing quarterbacks, and Michigan State has had better offensive line. So, I mean, if you look just year before last, if you look at, like, 2013, 14, 15, 16, Michigan State had one of the better offensive lines in college football. Or 2013, 14, 15. You could certainly make that argument like 14, 15, then it had the best offensive line. And if it wasn't the best, it was a top 5 offensive line. And who they have at quarterback? Connor Cook. I mean, I like Brian Lewerke. I think Brian's the next guy at Michigan State. I like the offensive line. I think young guys like Cole Chewins, David Beadle, they'll be fine. I mean, they're only losing one senior on the offensive line. That's center Brian Allen. Otis Hall says, why are we doing so much predictable running up the middle instead of using Brandon Peters and receivers running different mixed routes? It's not there, Otis. I mean, it's easy to talk and like ask, okay, why aren't they doing this? I mean, it's not a video game. It's not just gonna press a button and he's gonna throw the ball. I mean, that aspect of the game is just not there for Michigan, and it hasn't been all season long. Matt Crittenden says, very similar hit to Aaron Rodgers for sure. If I had to guess, I'd say collarbone. Robert Protzman said Harbaugh said it was head related, but we'll meet them at the plane and fly home. Yeah, so maybe it's a concussion. Hopefully nothing serious. Tende Don. I swear to God, I'll get that one, dude. Why haven't we ran anything really underneath lately, like dig or drags or slants? I know there's more West Coast, but he did that with Alex Smith. No, I think it's personnel. It's personnel. Cameron Clark says everything that could go wrong for Michigan does, and it's been that way for 8 straight years. Cameron, you're taking this one hard, man. I can tell that, but again, guys, if you expected anything more than an 8-4 or a 9-3 season, I think you were really setting yourself up for failure. I mean, yeah, the nature of the losses have been disappointing. I'll give you that, but at the end of the day, am I surprised that Michigan is 8-3, 5-3 in the Big Ten after Wisconsin? No, I'm not. Ian says problem for play calling is Michigan doesn't have a good quarterback like Michigan State does. That's been a major difference, right? For well, I mean, 8 of 11 years. I mean, you're looking at Brian Hoyer in the beginning, to Kirk Cousins, Connor Cook, little hiccup with Tyler O'Connor, and then Brian Lewerke. So I mean, 4 out of 5 guys have been pretty good. 4 out of those 5 guys, or three out of the previous 4. Let's leave Lewerke out of 3 of the previous 4 have been pretty good guys. They're NFL quarterbacks. Set school records. You know, Connor left as the winningest quarterback in Michigan State history. So yeah, Michigan hasn't had that quarterback. Chad Henne was the last guy. I mean, I think back. I'm thinking, when is the last time that Michigan had a legit pro style quarterback that you knew could just change the game? It was Chad Henne. And as much as I loved watching Denard Robinson play, one of my favorite college athletes ever, it was just a weird system for Michigan football, and we saw the results. I mean, Denard was exciting. Denard could change the game for sure, but that pro-style quarterback with the arm, they could change games, makes defense respect him. You know, Michigan hasn't had that since Chad Henne. I thought they had a little bit of it last year with Wilton Speight. I thought that was probably going to be the trend for Wilton Speight. He was going to be that guy. Today Don says, I called 8-4, but I honestly thought the offense would have been better, would have been the strong point, but it's been the defense to shock the offense this year. Yeah, well, I think, again, defense, I understand a lot of people were optimistic, thought that the offense would, supply more of a punch, but really, I mean, the defense was going to be the backbone of this team, no doubt about it. It'll be that next year. I'll call it right now. Defense will be the backbone of Michigan football next year. And really, I mean, if it's a good power program, I mean, you want defense to be the foundation. But when we're talking about Michigan, we're talking about a little bit more. It's not only foundation. It's like the only thing that you can really count on with Michigan football is the defense. Chandler Ellis says Harbaugh is stubborn and he tries to play bow ball too much. Times have changed, and this offense needs to adapt. He needs to add a twist or a wrinkle to the offense. Unless you're Bama, you can't run this. All right, guys, I think those are J Mays 2 asks, do you think we're recruiting well? Because there's a lot of teams out there that have young talent and are doing better than us. Examples given, Ohio State, Michigan State, plus just here, Emil Kior turned to Alabama. Yeah, Emil flipped to Alabama. Yeah, I think Michigan's recruiting well? Yes, I do. Are we talking about... do you want to get specific, like on a position? I mean, what are the major positions I think that we've been talking about this year? I mean, the offensive line coordinating, or recruiting rather, and then maybe quarterback recruiting. But I mean, I think Michigan recruits quarterbacks fine. It's again I think it's a process, and I think that a year like this just gets frustrating for people. But I mean, when you're looking at a team that's gone through 3 quarterbacks this year. 2 of them have been put in the hospital. All kinds of ups and downs with the offense. And I mean, Cameron said it best. I think anything that could go wrong for Michigan this season has gone wrong. But they're still 8-4. That's the thing. And I beg the question, because I know there's a lot of people who are, questioning the coaching staff. But I mean, show me another team that's had all these problems that would be 8-4 right now. I don't think there would be many. Aubrey Tunde Don says, definitely Aubrey Solomon's a beast. Yeah, Aubrey is a beast. Parth Patel, is Wilton Speight coming back for next week? I don't know, Parth. Do not know for certain. Robert Protzman says Michigan's defense will always be built on defense. Yeah? Did you mean, was that a typo? Come again? Ian says prediction for Michigan Ohio State game. I think Ohio State wins by 17. Ian, I want to save that until probably like around Wednesday or something. But I did say earlier it's going to be somewhere between what Ohio State did to Michigan State and what Penn State did to Michigan. I do not see it being pretty. Karen Clark said we should pay Saban $20 million to come coach for us. Robert Pratzwell says Michigan will always be built on defense. The English is hard. Hey, I had some typos on Twitter and I do because I type fast and I knew what you meant. Michigan will always be built on defense. I'm with you on that. All right, guys. Any other questions, comments? Gonna wrap it up here. We're going on 41 minutes. I'm going to try to catch this Michigan State-Maryland game, watch a couple other games. Again, I want to thank everybody following me. Hopefully next destination around the corner. Hoping to get something soon. I'll be at Jim Harbaugh's Monday press conference previewing Ohio State week. I'll get some video, have some stuff on my free agent blog. If you haven't checked that out, it's adambiggersblog.wordpress.com. Adam Biggers free agent blog. You can just Google that. You can follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. And again, you can like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like my Facebook page for Sports in the Mitten. And follow the podcast at Mitten Sports MI. So any final questions, guys? I'll take two more. Cisco Burden says, a basketball question. Do you think Michigan basketball has any chance at beating Michigan State? Because I don't. Well, they only play once this year, unless it's like in the Big Ten tournament. No, Cisco, I don't. I think Michigan State's really good. And, I mean, Michigan had a hard time in Central. They're two different teams. So, I mean, it's impossible to really head-to-head comparison. Michigan State's just at another level. Michigan will be good, though. I do think that Michigan, right now, if I had to say round of 32 team, I don't have any problem saying that. I do think Michigan's capable of winning a game in the national tournament. Just wait for things to get going. I mean, it's not, again, this isn't a Duke team. It's not a Michigan State team. It's not a Kansas. It's not a Kentucky where you know out the gate, like, okay, these guys are going to be pretty good because, I mean, look at all the talent they have. And Michigan losing Zach Irvin, losing Derek Walton, a huge loss. You know, losing DJ Wilson early to the draft. So, but I do think Mo Wagner is going to have a huge year. I think Mo is going to be one of the best big men in college basketball. Where does Michigan basketball finish in the Big Ten? Think 4 or 5. I think that's fair. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'll do a podcast Monday recapping Harbaugh's Monday press conference. I'll try to get down there and get some player video. As you guys know, I've been kind of slacking a little bit. It's hard to get down there when it's not your job. So hopefully something soon turns up for me. But I will continue to do the podcast as long as you guys keep listening. And I want to thank Tim and Keith at Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor for the assist and keeping me fed during football season. 808 State Street in Ann Arbor, MrSpotsAnnArbor.com. And next week, guys, it's a home game. So the closest dead-on prediction, will get a half steak or a half chicken sandwich for free. All you got to do is just go in and show Tim or Keith or one of their great staff members at the cash register. Just show them the tweet. They'll hook you up. So, again, I'll do the preview show probably Wednesday. We'll dedicate all of next week talking about Ohio State. A little bit on Monday. We'll recap the Wisconsin game, any lingering thoughts from the weekend. But we will push forward, and it will be all about Wolverines, Buckeyes this week. So, thanks again for watching. I'm Adam Biggers. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81, and I'll catch you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.